Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's story, an entitled homeowner association sued a veteran for over $120,000, claiming his service dog is illegal and that he is faking his disability. And the first one starts like this. So, what I'm about to tell you may shock and dismay you. It all happened one sunny summer day here in my hometown of El Paso, Texas. So, I've been living here ever since I returned home from 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I love Texas, it's my home, it's where I was born and raised, and I will never leave it. Even if some idiot Ken comes and tries to stomp me down with his petty ass entitled BS. So I've been a veteran since I fought in a war, and let me tell you, life does not get easier at home. Matter of fact, the American dream is dead. Most hardworking people find it harder and harder to make a living here, let alone be harassed by a bunch of losers who want to steal the American dream and the values away from the very people that built this country. Damn, with that said, let me get into a little background story. When I returned home from the war in Afghanistan around 2021, I went and moved to Texas into an older neighborhood with an HOA. At the time, my service checks were not enough to cover the rent because I had recently bought a dog from the Humane Society. He was a small German Shepherd named Doxy. I loved that dog and I would do anything to protect her and make sure that she had everything she needed. My rent was pretty high, so I had to borrow funds from my parents and live off credit cards until my checks from the government kicked in and I found a good job. My background was in forensics and I worked as a military forensics expert during my time in the Gulf and Afghanistan. Let me tell you, forensics is no joke. I've spent nearly a decade honing my spy skills and investigative repertoire to become one of the leading forensic experts in the military. And what I'm about to tell you will blow your panties off. But before you get them in a twist, let me tell you how it all went down. So when I returned home from my time in the war, I settled in this small community with an HOA. It was more of a younger crowd and I loved the vibe and the atmosphere that came with it. I wanted to be around positivity since my whole time in the war was, well, to say the least, pretty dreadful. It was not pretty, so when I settled down, I got me a service dog. Doxy was special to me. Hell, without this dog aiding me and helping me out with PTSD, I don't know where I would be without her. She is a godsend, so when I find out that one of the HOA members takes a liking to her, my guard goes up. And I'm not talking about this dude eyeing her like a sick old man at a yuppie bar. No. I'm talking this HOA MF wanted to take me out, Iraqi style, dog and all. It happened one weekend, I remember clearly. I was walking Doxy down the road near the entrance when this car pulled up. It was bright and shiny and had new rims on it. It didn't look like it was a resident because most of the residents here were driving old beat up Hondas and Nissans. No, this guy pulled up in a Rolls Royce, I kid you not. When he got out of the car, he tried to be all kiss-assy and shake my hand. He took off his shades and greeted me. "Hi, I'm Jason, the HOA president. Are you new here?" I looked at him sharply and got a weird vibe. "Yeah, I just moved in a few months ago. My name is Todd." He looked at me up and down and then looked at Doxy as if something was wrong. "Awesome. Well, welcome aboard. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of dog is that?" I look at him hesitantly as if something might be wrong. I remember being questioned a lot in the military. Being on my guard at all times was just something I was used to, so it kind of came as no shock. My intuition skyrocketed right there and I knew something was amiss. "It's a German Shepherd, she's only 5 years old," I replied. This idiot Ken then proceeds to eye my dog up and down, and Doxy, being the sweet lovable German Shepherd that she is, proceeds to lick Jason on the shoes and he freaked out. He stepped back and almost fell over on the hood of his shiny car. He then sped off without saying anything and he stopped in the middle of the street and full tail reversed it with the tires all screeching and causing a dust storm like something I've never seen before. Not even in Iraq. He then pulls up in the same spot where he was while Doxy was taking a crap. I picked it up and put it in the bag and he snaps a photo of Doxy and I with his cell phone. He peels out and creates another dust storm. I look at Doxy and head on back home. Now that was a bit creepy, not gonna lie. I thought to myself, there's one thing that I never mentioned. I happen to be disabled and ever since I've been home, I had to go see numerous doctors for my leg. My leg was blown off by a landmine somewhere in the mountains of Afghanistan. Let me tell you, it sucks. I've had to have numerous surgeries just to piece back my nerves and leg endings. On top of that, I had to get an artificial limb that has proven to be quite useful. It almost looks and feels like a real leg. It does have a metal brace attached to it to help me with support, so it looks like I have a robotic leg. I thought about getting attachments that would make it look more lifelike, and I'm thinking of going down to the ADA and talking with my superiors in the army as well to get one. But honestly, I'm just grateful to be alive. Damn, but in all, let me tell you what else happened. I get this letter one day in the mail from Jason, the HOA president. He claimed that service dogs were not allowed on the property and that I was violating code IC 2.410 or some BS. I looked it up with the ADA, and last I was told was that any type of dog at a certain size was clearly able to live on my property even if it is in an HOA. And Doxy was not that big of a German Shepherd. I think this nasty Ken just wanted to put my balls in a vise and twist it around a little bit. I ended up going to the HDA office and showing them the letter. Matter of fact, evil snarky Ken ended up sending me 10 letters with the exact same wording, all within a span of 2 months. One of them even threatened to sue me. What the hell? It turned out that after a few months later, Jason banged on my door and had the audacity to come and school me. The worst thing was that he thought my leg was not actually artificial, and he didn't even believe that I was disabled. What a load of baloney. As I was trying to get him off my front doorstep, he ended up taking a few steps back when Doxy showed up in the yard. He then ran towards Doxy, I guess to tell her to leave and go sit down. That is when I got angry. No one messes with my service dog. No one. Jason then pulls a fast one and starts rambling off orders and threatening me with the police, claiming that my dog is the problem and that he fell because of her. That is when he pushed me a little with his finger on my chest and I shoved him a little on the shoulder. "Back away, I didn't do anything wrong here," I yelled. He then grabbed my leg and ripped off my prosthetic leg and dangled it in the air, laughing. "What a bunch of BS," he chimed. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" he asked. I looked at him like a soldier would be ready for a kill. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I screamed. "You cannot discriminate against me. I am disabled." Good thing I had my walking stick near me. I managed to wobble over to the driveway near my garage where it laid down. At this point he was infuriated and wanted to squash me like a little bug. "You cannot have dogs on the property, and that's not a service dog. Get it out of here." I grabbed my stick and whacked him over the head as he charged at me and lunged at me with his fists. Doxy was barking and running around. Luckily for her, she helped me regain my balance along with the stick. I got up and reattached the prosthetic leg. Jason was lying on the driveway, rubbing his head and screaming. Within a few minutes he gets up and the cops arrive. I guess a neighbor saw everything and called the police. Jason starts talking to the police and I get inside and splash my face with some cold water. After a lengthy questioning with the cops, Jason rolls off and I end up never seeing him again. But well, it turns out later that I get this letter in the mail and inside is a written statement from Jason. He ended up suing me for $120,000 because of my supposedly illegal service dog and me clearly faking disability. After months of court battles which seemed to never end, I finally won my case with my lawyer from the Army Corps. We won the battle and worked with the ADA to countersue for harassment, discrimination and violating ADA laws. I ended up winning $265,000. Now I am able to pay off my credit cards, pay the rest of my rent and upgrade my prosthetic leg so it looks more real. I don't want any clowns trying to pry it off with their negligence and phony ways. Either way, Jason ended up getting dethroned and had to step down from the HOA. I also found out that he was working with a few other neighbors to target certain homeowners in the area. The police investigated it after one of the neighbors came forward with some camera footage of our confrontation. Apparently these neighbors got a good payoff too, and I don't mean money because these dudes were aiding and abetting a criminal. What the hell? They investigated it and apparently Jason was in on all these schemes. He had tried to get other residents to also cough up money for the same BS. Wow, after all is said and done, this guy was a first-class idiot who messed with the wrong person. As the saying goes, don't mess with taxes. Well, I got another one for you. Don't mess with veterans or else you might get a can of whoop-ass. By the way, Jason ended up spending some significant time behind bars and I would say that is exactly what he deserved. Karma can be a bitch. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. The software company I worked for got acquired, some people were let go, some were added, and some teams and functions were restructured. Prior to the acquisition, we had a multiple head situation where you basically did whatever was in your capacity, teams played to each other's strength, and one person would generally take a client from the first demo right through the configuration, implementing, and training phases of the software. Some of us had strength in technical areas, others had a decade plus in the client's subject matter. Clients would give us some feedback or wish lists, and we would talk amongst the team about how the functionality could be added or changed, make a functional mock-up, and then bring that to the development team for polish and integration into the production code. It worked wonderfully, like 100% positive feedback and nothing broken when it went to production. We had a good rapport with the dev guys, and some of us were able to write queries or code portions that would save them from having to ask a billion subject matter questions. When we were not dedicated to a task, we would handle support calls. Clients would call up, receptionists learned who to pass things to based on clients and the nature of issues, and resolution was typically instantaneous unless the problem required research. Clients loved that and had the understanding that if we could not resolve their problem right away, it was because we needed to look into it. After the acquisition, the parent company reorganized things into a much more rigid, you have one job type of scenario. The trouble was, with the people they let go, I was the singular remaining source of a lot of the capacities we provided. It left me working with the sales, product improvement concept, product evangelism, implementation, development, data conversion, and support teams. Initially, I didn't mind. It wasn't any different than my previous role. Things started nicely enough with the company's CEO genuinely asking, would you mind helping X team with Y project? And he would pick up my travel bar tabs and toss me a day off here and there. It was a fair exchange, and he treated it as though I was doing him a favor. But at some point, all these other departments expected, then demanded my time. Instead of people asking me when I could help them on a project, I would just find time blocks added to my schedule for various things. A couple of times I was supposed to be chairing these meetings and having things prepared, and no one even bothered me. Around this same time, I noticed a lot of recommendations I made when asked for input were being overturned by people in new roles who had no idea what they were talking about. As in literally had no exposure to the subject matter and had never even seen the software, plus no programming logic or database experience. And this was causing more demands on my time when things were broken or didn't meet client expectation. Plus, the new dev team I was working with made every excuse not to act unless someone went and confirmed and fetched everything they needed. The external demands on my time had increased, and I had coincidentally hit a few walls with my actual job in that clients were unresponsive and couldn't get me the data or access I needed to complete tasks. But that did not stop my boss from demanding documentation and results, and documentation about the results. There was no such thing as waiting. It's your duty to call and harass the powerless client until whatever third party involved enables whatever we need. Honestly, I was really unhappy in a job I had previously loved. Every day was worse than the last one, and then I got my employee review. It was top-notch, and yet I got the same cost of living raise as everyone else. It particularly burned my ass that the sales guys were getting commission on sales that I made, and I was just shafted. At the original company, effort above and beyond was well rewarded. I doubled my starting salary in a few years' time for hard work, and now I was miserable, overdrawn, and got nothing for it. I was having daily arguments with my boss, who was completely indifferent to all my commitments and refused to understand that I could not compel third-party companies to do my timely bidding to get client data or access. Out of nowhere, I get a call from the head of the data conversions department. He says a few of his people have noticed some high-level solutions to dev or data problems in the team chats come out of some random guy from implementations in no time. Then he was talking to a pre-existing client about converting a set of financial data from a legacy system I had converted some building, code, fire, planning and police data from, and they asked if they could have me do it specifically because my conversion of their other data was flawless, and I granted them some change requests on the way through to make their lives easier. Simple changes to record type names for easier identification, clip leading spaces or extra zeros so they could put reports in Excel, stuff like that. He said the client would not stop effing gushing about me, and he was floored to hear that I had done the whole thing myself, where his team typically breaks the responsibilities between 5 or more people. He offered me a position on the spot and I told him I was interested and I would think about it. He told me I could start doing some part-time stuff with him a few hours a week if I wanted it that way. Then he told me that he saw the BS I was dealing with and said he would get the other departments off my effing plate. I liked him right away. My current boss then interrupted our call, seeing me talking to that guy on our in-house phone app, and demanded to know what I was wasting my time on. Then she proceeded to berate me about open orders and my lack of documentation about their lack of progress. You got time to BS with him, but you cannot call a client. I tried to tell her for the millionth time about all the expectations from the other departments, the obligations they leave beyond their allotted timeframes, the inability I have to force other companies to do things for us no matter how many times I tell the client. She then told me, I am done with your excuses. Just do your job and shut up. I called the conversions head right back and asked how soon I could transfer to his department full-time. He said, "Effin' yesterday, man, this is such good news. I was just talking to assistant department manager and he is about to crap his pants when I said I think I got you part-time. Take the rest of the day off, have a beer to celebrate. I'll handle the transfer and we will see you in the morning." And that was that. I did as my new boss commanded and had a beer to celebrate. A wave of relief came over me after months of tension. The following day I told the vampire departments and my previous boss in no uncertain terms that I was done helping them. It went unacknowledged and they continued adding things to my calendar. So I deleted them, did my job and shut up. Things got ugly. I'm not super talented or anything, but I was literally the only person they had for a lot of things and things went to crap. Most of it requires institutional knowledge I had spent years acquiring, so they could not even hire someone to do these things. And rather than come ask me for help, people made demands and attacks. And I got flat out belligerent about it. In an email with the CEO CC'd, the support manager asked why I could not be bothered to help them anymore. I said, for the same reason that you cannot be bothered to clean the toilets or recable the building. It's not my job. Previous boss told me just to do my job and shut up. Take it up with her. The sales/evangelist guys tried to go over my head and ask my new boss if I could do some of their demos. He said sure if you come over here and do some of his conversions. Numbers tanked for the departments I was previously involved with, support in particular. They went from a 2-hour average resolution time to 8 days. Sales for my product line went down from 85% success to less than 25%. The CEO reported that sales dropped over 60% from 85%. I don't know the exact number. Dev and product went from 100% customer satisfaction down to 60%. Implementations have been completely unable to install certain components, which led to at least one contract cancellation and demand for a refund. And in true storybook fashion, my previous boss's boss, the one who gave me my previous employee review and who is a childhood friend of the CEO, told me privately that the CEO noticed all the departments OP stopped working for suddenly saw their worst numbers in company history. Weird. And then asked, anything in particular that pushed a guy over the edge? The previous boss's boss explained that I was pissed about the review and race having nothing to do with merit or effort, and the demand from other departments, unrealistic and impossible expectations, and the idiotic requirement for documentation. So this year and going forward there are 2 criteria for yearly raises: individual output and department output. No raises for people with negative performance numbers. Upon that announcement, some department heads up and quit and others changed positions internally. Meanwhile, I have written a few utilities for my team that have saved thousands of hours of manual work. Our numbers are soaring where they were previously up and down, and my new boss is driving the whole bus full of our laughing asses all the way to the bank. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.